Do you want to take this and do this? Then join me, Terrence Irvin, Parish Program Coordinator for the Great Ascension Trash Bash, held on March 26th through the 31st. There will be a Trash Bash Award ceremony on Saturday the 31st at 11 a.m. at the Ascension Chamber of Commerce in Gonzales. There'll be food, prizes, and fun for the whole family. Bring the kids, bring your family, bring your friends. But most of all, bring your love for this parish. That's the Great Ascension Parish Trash Bash. Let's clean it up together.
Call the Thursday, March 8th finance meeting to order. Suzanne, I believe everyone's present. Parish,
Mr. Connell.
oh, excuse me, Mr. Connell is absent. Parish President, would you please lead us in prayer following the pledge?
Father, we thank Thee for this beautiful weather we enjoy. We thank Thee for the many blessings that have come our way. Help all of us and all of our citizens understand the great blessings we enjoy in this parish. We thank You for our people. We pray for those who have lost loved ones recently. We pray for those who are defending freedom throughout the world, those who are protecting us inside of our parish and state, and the leaders of our community, our nation, and our state. Pray Thy blessing upon this finance committee in our parish, all who work in it, who will be successful in helping improve the quality of life and the opportunities for our citizens. Give us wisdom and understanding. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chair's additions, I don't believe there's any. For public comment period, anyone wishing to speak, please sign with Ms. Suzanne, Secretary, a speaker card. You can speak on that particular agenda item. I think we'll go out of order a little bit for the meeting. We have a presentation tonight, and Mr. Bill Clark has a flight back to Michigan tonight, and we're going to try to get him a little bit early. So we're going to take him. We're going to move 10 to 4A, and we're also going to pass on 12. So, Mr. Clark and your group, if you will. Probably right in front of the podium. Yes.
Good evening. My name is William Clark. I represent a company named Quadrants. My partner, Greg Ernie from Redico, could not be here with us, but when I speak to you this evening, I'm speaking as a joint partnership, Quadrants and Redico. I'd first like to thank you for your consideration to assist me with getting back to the airport this evening. When I saw the agenda tonight, I thought, boy, how am I going to get there? So thank you. My wife will appreciate that, I can tell you. First of all, pardon?
So you sure about that?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. She needs me to stop at the store and get bread and milk on the way home, so I know she'll appreciate me getting there. But we're here before you this evening to introduce to you a project we've named Edenborn. For those of you likely already know this, but the name Edenborn came from the original name of the city of Gonzales, and we thought it'd be appropriate, since we're creating basically a self-contained community at LA 44 and I-10. So I have here with me this evening I have Chris Clark, who's with us, Chris Remsen, our architect, Keith Williams, and Gary Benz. Gary represents the real estate side, and we're here this evening. Some of the other folks that are involved with this, and by the way, the folks that we involved on the project are all local Baton Rouge companies, because when we go into an area, even though we're from a place away from here, from Michigan, we believe in working with all the local folks because they have the best understanding of what the site is and what it needs to be done. So the folks that are not here with us is Fortin Tablata, who was our civil engineer. They've done all the drainage issue studies, all of the other topography and the related site work. We have Urban Systems, who is also part of our team. Urban Systems has done all the initial traffic work. They've got the current traffic studies in, which update the LDOT 2004 studies, our traffic counts, and brings them up current on LA 30, LA 44, and I-10 through that area, so that we have a good handle on what we need to handle with the traffic situation. The site, again, is at the corner, the northeast corner of I-10 and LA 44. In fact, it'd be I'm sorry, it's upside down, southwest corner. Forgive me. All the times I wrote this down, I got it wrong, but I do know where the site is. So it's on the southwest corner. It's 303 acres in size. Currently, it's all within the city of Gonzales. The current zoning for that is an agricultural use, although we have had it rezoned, which it's zoned to a T&D. I should correct that statement. It was zoned agricultural. It's now T&D, which is the ordinance that Gonzales enacted about last June, I believe it was. The current zoning allows for mixed use of commercial, residential of various types, hotels, and office buildings. The proposed project, the T&D complies with the city ordinance, and then I'll let Chris Remsen come up and speak to a couple of the density issues. And
is it possible to stand out here and speak? I need to stand.
You really need to stand by the mic.
I'll try to remember what's up there.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Chris Remsen. I'm the architect working on this project, and we're excited to present this to you tonight. I'll try to be brief. Some points I want to touch on, as Bill said, that this project is being developed under the new T&D ordinance in the city of Gonzales. And the purpose of the T&D ordinance, it's a new way to develop that is forward-thinking, that is intended to be a solution to sprawl. I know you've heard of developments such as River Ranch and other ones that are taking place around, and there's several good ideas behind this. The ordinance reads, the purpose of the district is to create and enhance urban neighborhoods with a variety of intermixing uses that complement the established surrounding communities. And how is that done? The first thing that this type of development does is it uses a mixture of uses, commercial and residential. It uses a grid of streets to create a pattern that provides alternatives from getting from one place to another to shorten trips. If you're going to the grocery store, if you're going to the school, if you're going to your house. It provides flexibility over the entire district. Again, the mixture of uses allows for things to occur that want to occur. Normal type zonings or use-based zonings that do not afford the luxury of having a small grocery store in your neighborhood and that sort of thing. and allows for different types of compatible land uses close together in appropriate locations to shorten transportation trips. The bottom line is this type of development has been worked out in order to provide people a place to live, work, and play without having to get into their car to do everything. And so I have a couple of boards up here. I know this is difficult to see. This first one is sort of an aerial view of what this development may look like when it's built out. But the board on your left basically shows the different land uses that are proposed for the development. The orange is predominantly commercial. The yellow in this area is what we call transitional, and the green is residential. One of the unique things about this site is it does have interstate visibility and access. So clearly that has helped dictate to us how we lay out the site. The commercial is arranged so that you do have visual access. People can see where the stores are. Thank you. And it's apparent on how to get there. Is this on?
Yes.
It's apparent to them how to get there as they come to the development. Once you get off the interstate, access through the development is very simple. There's a connector road that runs through the center of the development, and off of it, as I mentioned before, is a grid of streets that allows for the buildings to actually be arranged so that they're up on the street and all the parking associated with those buildings happens behind the buildings. So it creates a really nice environment. This is an image looking down the main street here in the predominantly commercial section of the development. And as I said before, this is a transitional area, and basically what that means is that area is intended to remain flexible so that it would include a mixture of higher density residential uses along with some smaller commercial like architect's office, dentist's office, bakeries, those sort of things. And then down in this area, which if hopefully you understand where we are, this is the interstate, this is Highway 44. This is Loosemore Road down here, and as you know, this is a much more residential, lower density area. So we've arranged the development so that abutting to that area is also very low density, no traffic, and nothing noxious in this area. And basically, that's the things I wanted to mention to you, and I'll be happy to take any questions. I'm sure I've missed a lot, but I just wanted to give you a general overview of what the feel and the layout and how this is intended to work. And I'll turn it back over to Bill.
Thank you, Chris. A couple of items that...
Excuse me, Mr. Bill, I think there may have been a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For Mr. Chris. You going to wait?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Bill.
Two of the items, as Chris was going through this, that are planned for the project is a set-aside for a school. Now, we've talked preliminarily with some construction folks at the school. Their names escape me right now, or I'd be happy to provide them. But to ask if we would set aside some land that could be at a future date for school, which we are going to work that back in and near the residential area. The other item is a fire station that will be incorporated with this, and the fire station was a request of the city of Gonzales, and we have agreed to provide that. The adjacent land uses that we have, as Chris touched on, we're very sensitive to buffering to the existing landowners, and that's part of what drove our design, was that we had the single-family residential down where the single-family was, and the more intense use up at the highway where truly the only impact would be on the motorists going up and down I-10, as opposed to having any interference with residential. On the utilities, the project as it is today will be serviced by the city of Gonzales with water and sewer. We've done some extensive drainage impact studies through Fort Tablada. There'll be no impact to the surrounding area. In fact, it'll be improved because currently there's surface runoff from those fields there right into the Bayou Conway. Part of our program here is a series of best practice stormwater management, which would include retention, detention ponds. It would include cleaning the bayou out in the area of our project to assist with the water flow. And so we're continuing to evolve the plan for that, but when we're all done, we will have the best stormwater management practice that's known today and handled here. So from my perspective, the drainage in that whole area should improve, if that's anyone's concern. I'm just sharing with you where we're going with that. In addition to that, the infrastructure, the current road and utility infrastructure, as Chris went through, it's going to be located on site. However, at some point in time, and beyond now, if I can just point to this for a moment. This road right here that I'm pointing, and I apologize for not bringing the mic, but this road that I'm pointing to is placed there to eventually either go to 30 or carry traffic through. So we've provided a stub here. We're not with no preconceived notion of where it's going to end up, although we've talked about 30, we've talked about other destinations. All we know is in our plan, we wanted to get the stuff to our property line so that there could someday, if others chose to do it, get a routing through here and out to 44. So that'll be incorporated into the final plan. On the current site as it sits today, obviously there's no jobs generation. However, once the build-out is done, we're looking for this project to have total build-out in 7 to 10 years. That's the estimate of time for the build-out. So it won't happen overnight. It could happen quicker. It could happen a little slower. But in our projections, to total build-out year would be 7 to 10 years from when we start. During the construction phase, at any given time, based on our past history and other projects, there'll be at least 700 new construction jobs ongoing there at all times, because we'll have multi-facets of work going on. Once the project is complete, and again, based on our history, our work history with these type things, there'll be 3,000 permanent jobs is our estimate. Now, some of those jobs, granted, they may be a wait staff job, so they're not the high-paying jobs. But in the retail business, about a third of their staff is management, which is higher-paying positions. In the hotels, we'll have higher-paying positions. So we haven't been able to get a total grasp on the pay scale, but it'll range from being a wait staff at one of the restaurants to being a hotel manager, or in the office buildings that we intend to build there, there'll be some high-paying jobs there. We're looking to attract some, I'd say, Fortune 1000 type companies, a couple of anchors to anchor the office building section. When we do our calculations on a project of this type, there's a minimum of 1.5 to 2 jobs is the multiplier you use. So on the on-site jobs of 3,000, there's at least another 4,500 jobs that are residual, created off-site, whether they have to add a new UPS driver or FedEx driver to bring all the packages, or whatever the goods and services are that support this large development. There'll be jobs that we know are out there while we can't directly account for them. But that's the national average, 1.5 to 2 jobs is the multiplier. The schedule that we're on is immediately getting over some last hurdles. We're going to be into our final design of construction and start submitting for permits. Our desire, as I stand before you here this evening, is to have construction commence by the end of '07, late fall or no later than '07. We have interest from some large national retailers that we want to try and be able to capture them for the site and to be on their timeline. That's one of the requirements. As far as that, I open it up for any questions. And again, Mr. Savoy.
Mr. Savoy?
Yeah, when you started off, you said that the entire 303 acres is inside the city limits of Gonzales. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How many residential units are you talking about?
Chris?
Have any idea?
Without having these to look at, I kind of passed over some of it, but we haven't determined the number of units yet, but we have got a breakdown that we submitted. The breakdown that we submitted to the city of Gonzales looks something like this. The commercial, this orange section, would be 107 acres, this transitional area at 38 acres, and the low-density residential at 89 acres. Now, that 89 acres would include some estate-type lots, some medium-sized lots, and perhaps a little higher-density lots that are in keeping with the urban quality of the town center for a TND. So if you take that and you do an average with 89 acres, I guess an average would be somewhere around 8 units or between 7 and 8 units per acre. And this transitional area would include some multifamily, and really the idea is to leave it flexible so that we can meet the need as the development builds out.
Now, Chris, I think we should add that on the single-family units, that wouldn't be 8 to the acre. The single-family will be 3 or 4 to the acre, and then the multifamily will be larger. But what Chris spoke to is if you averaged everything out.
The multifamily and the single family.
So, Mr. Savoy, if your question was to a more specific area there, we could maybe address.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to have some type of ballpark
Yeah, and
figure
then
on how
that
many
transitional area, we're envisioning buildings that would be multi-use. In other words, multi-story, is it like retail on the bottom, professional office perhaps on the next floor or so, and residential above that, and parts of that transitional zone. And that's why today we don't have we're going to have this many units, because we're right now working through the design for that in the transitional area. We do know what the single family is going to do.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Valentine.
Thank you, Chairman Barrett. Let me explain to the council first why Eden Bourne is here. I suggested that they come make the presentation. As you heard Mr. Clark talk about, they've already got approval and zoning from the city of Gonzales. They are in that. Why this is unique is because it is mirrored by a dual taxing, sales taxing zone. This property was annexed after the agreements in the legislature, I'm assuming. Maybe Ms. Gwynn can explain some of that for us a little later. But it is a dual taxing area where essentially 10.5% sales tax can be levied. And that is done by legislation, as I understand it, and agreements. The developer naturally has some consideration about that, and we as a council, and the parish president and I have had some discussions on this also, we really need to kind of iron out, or at least work, this council does, out some type of agreement that could be vanilla in the future for a development that would come on the fringes or annexed property such as this. There are some other situations that are looming in the near future that may come up also in this situation. I passed out a memorandum that's dated to you March the 8th. Actually, the mayor and the sheriff and I met a couple of weeks ago and had some discussion about this. And the mayor essentially presented this to me from his clerk on what he would like to see from the mayor's standpoint. And so I want you to read that, peruse that at your leisure. But I would suggest that Chairman Berger, maybe he may consider appointing a small committee to aid in this negotiation, because that's exactly what it is, dealing with the sales tax issue, because there are some requirements that must be made, and Mr. Clark is also on a tight deadline. When I was first approached with it, I didn't realize how tight his deadline. He actually has his first benchmark is at 30 days from now, so we really need to at least try and accomplish something for Edenborn and possibly in the future. I guess, Chairman, I guess my question would be to the council, does anybody need the tax structure explained? Ms. Gwynn, I'm sure, or the parish president can explain that on why we're dealing with this situation. In other words, this property was
pretty much the same as we did with Walmart as far as the structure goes.
Right. Walmart was a little different situation with Donaldsonville because they had a business within the city that moved out of their city, and so they had a sales tax loss. So that was a little different from what we're talking about now. This is an added business. This is something that the city of Gonzales doesn't really have right now, and they essentially have approved it. Now, everything along that interstate is not annexed. Mr. Clark talked about how it's stubbed out on the property. But then again, there's nothing saying in the future that the city of Gonzales couldn't annex that also. And I'm sure services, because of the Cabela's, where it's located and what have you, I'm sure some of those services may have to run down the interstate. So that's the situation we're in. I just wanted to bring the council, because it has been in the paper. They have approved it. Really, in essence, we don't have to approve this TND. It's been approved, but it depends on whether this development comes to Ascension Parish on exactly what we deal as far as the sales tax is involved, or what we think it will be. But if anybody needs a explanation on sales tax, everybody familiar with what we're talking about? It's actually a dual tax scenario. Okay, that's it, Council.
Okay.
If I could add something, Councilman Valentine, and I had missed that here on my presentation. When we did the projections for the sales tax for this project, we actually believed it was at 8.5%. We got our information from the state, and there was a miscommunication, obviously, or the person we talked to was uninformed, but running the sales tax calculations at 8.5%, at our full build-out, which we believe that retail is going to go fairly quick, it's projected to conservatively generate $5 million annually in sales tax at 8.5%. I don't know that that has any bearing on anybody's thoughts, but it's quite a bit of sales tax here. This project, and it could run well above this. I'm giving you conservative estimates. I can tell you that we did a similar retail project in Michigan just recently, and that's going to do about, and it was less square footage than this, that'll do about $50 million a year in sales, and it's about half the size of Edenborn. So when we did these projections, we're not here telling you something we can't live up to. We'll put that in writing, because if it doesn't do that, it's not successful. So that. So any other questions?
Mr. Thompson, you had a question?
Yes, I was just concerned. You said that you was going to, you may have a route to Highway 30?
No, I said we knew something will happen. What we provided is the stub road, because if we don't put it in our development, stubbing to the west property line, and we built a building there, the road will never go through. So we're just not only thinking of ourselves, but the surrounding area. Some roads someday, whether it goes to St. Landry or to 30, or it's got to go somewhere, and we have the perfect connection from 44 coming through our 300 acres. So all we were trying to do is...
So we're just going to come from 44 and back out to 44?
At this time? Yes. Yeah, our development's fine doing that. The retailers are fine. The hotels are fine. Obviously, a connection road to 30 or to somewhere would do nothing but assist the development and its success. However, it's not a required or necessity for any of the retailers. Because we're building the network there, Councilman Thompson, with a series of roundabouts. It's like its own little city. So even though you go in and out off 44, you have a series or a network of roads that you get around through the development, and it's to everybody, they're quite comfortable with that. In fact, I'll give you this for an example. The one that we just completed in Michigan, it's called Green Oak Village Place. It sits right on an interstate highway. It's 550,000 feet of retail, high-end retail, and there's one way in, one same way back out. The retailers, as long as the on-site circulation is adequate, then they're okay with that. Granted, we'd all like another road, but we're prepared to wait till that happens someday, and we'll participate. I mean, we're paying our costs now by running that road, and it'll be a road designed to take heavier traffic too. I mean, greater volumes of traffic. We're not building it just for our development. This main road that transverses, it'll be, right now it looks like a boulevard section with each 2 lanes going each way with left turn lanes in the center median. So it'll be a heavy-duty design. We can get by with a much less design for our development.
Anything else, Mr. Thompson? Mr. Shakespeare.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Bill, for coming. I know we had met preliminarily, and one of our, as a council, one of our priorities was to get an east-west corridor to connect to St. Landry Road. And since that time, Cabela's has entered the picture, and everyone knows that we want to have some type of connectivity and have a road that connects to that area. This gives us an opportunity, and we transferred that interest to Bill and the developers, and I guess in their designs, they designed it such that as a parish, we could take it from where the city ends and continue our connection to St. Landry or Cabela's, and provide a loop for the people in a future economic development opportunity. So, or partner with another developer as it continues on, and it gives us a chance to build something that would have cost a large amount of money, millions of dollars, that we can do fairly reasonably. So I think it would be a good partnership, and we can look forward to trying to extend that a little further. And I would like to urge us to, Mr. Valentine has taken upon the negotiations, and that we continue as quickly as possible to get with the city of Gonzales and work out something that's going to be fair for the people of the parish and the city, so we can move forward. And this is a true development that's going to complement everyone, and I think with the schools and the traffic and everything, it will help us, and the city is going to benefit and the parish is going to benefit. So we appreciate what you designed.
Well, thank you, and we'll continue to be a good community-minded developer, because when we come to a community, we don't just come in, do the development, flip it, take our money, and run back to Michigan. I mean, we're here for the long haul. We don't build property to sell it. We build it to retain it, and it's an income revenue stream for many years to come. So we're not looking for a quick buck. As far as the road going out to Cabela's or wherever, as Councilman said, we have had a lot of discussion, both with some Ascension folks and with others, about what the best thing to do is, and we're not in a position to decide that, but we are in a position to at least provide that routing through our property, and that was our goal.
Parish President.
Just be aware that when I met with the attorney several weeks ago on this project, and one of the things we talked about was this connector road, and one of the first things our new planning director will do, because ratify him, is to work on this project. Remember, we turned into Congress and our state legislature 3 years ago the east-west corridor and a connector from St. Landry going south as well as 22, and there's a developer working on that right now. And so we will be talking to those landowners, because a lot of this other land will be in the parish, outside the city limits. And so it looks like only 2 or 3 landowners, if we've looked at the maps, involved where they would stub out. And so we will get with them, and it's not that far of a distance. Possibility of a parish road to connect to this development, which would help open up that entire area to St. Landry, or to the, you got roads there behind Cabela's as well. Vendez roads off of St. Landry. There's a lot of options there we need to look at, and it's one of the first things they'll be doing. This is something we've been talking about for 3 years now, and we have an opportunity to bring it to fruition. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Clark? Mr. Salvor.
Yeah, Mr. Bill, in your 303 acres that you're working with, how many acres are the taxing districts lapped over?
The whole 303 acres is my understanding.
Yes.
No.
Is that incorrect?
Mr. Valentine?
Well, yeah, the city of Gonzales, Miss Gwen, maybe you can approach it. I don't know what the area is, Mr. Councilman Savoy, but the corners of Highway 44 on both sides, and the corners north and south and east and west all belong or not within the dual taxing district. I don't know how big it is. The mayor referenced it to the fact that the one hotel that's planned, I guess, up front is actually in the city and wouldn't be in a dual area. But the rest of the development, all of the development that he's essentially referring to, is in the dual taxing area.
Well, then if I could reach...
I would like a map of the dual of the area.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I wasn't really aware of that till this evening, because I haven't been involved in the...
We'll get that, Mr. Clark. You don't have to worry about that. We'll get the map from the...
Let me say this if I could, and we have, the finance has been working on this since the attorney came and met with me, because in my conversation with the mayor and Mr. Landry, there is some question. It looks like parts of this property was annexed at different times by the city, and that part that has been annexed before the parish established taxing districts would more than likely not be part of this dual situation. Those areas that was annexed later, after the parish had established our 1-cent sales tax district and our 1/2-cent sales tax district, and of course East Ascension Drainage has collected the whole East Bank anyway. So you got several issues here that we're trying to get with legal and a finance office to really figure out exactly what is what, Jerry. But it looks like there's very little of the property that would not be in the dual taxing district. It's, from what we can tell thus far, the city at one time annexed the 4 corners of I-10 and 44. This development will only involve one corner, the southwest corner, as Mr. Clark said. That there are other things that are happening, though, potentially right now in these other corners. And that's why I think George's comments, we've got to work something out in this entire principle and concept, because this is going to be becoming more and more of an issue as we move forward.
Okay, I think we actually spent enough time on this issue. It was just a presentation tonight. We're not going to get anything solved tonight. We want to introduce it to everyone. I am going to appoint a subcommittee to do some more research and dig into this, and I don't think we can talk for 2 hours on this and not solve anything tonight. Purpose of it was just a presentation.
I need to be excused.
Mr. Savoy?
Excuse me, Mr.
Please,
Chairman.
very shortly.
Excuse me, I was cut off at the last council meeting because I didn't get all my facts and information at the committee. Now I'm being cut off at the committee. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Do you have anything else?
Mr. Thompson? Or,
I would like to offer a motion, if that's in order, to form a committee to work on this project and get all the necessary information and documents and get it back to the full council.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by who? Mr. Lambert. Any objection? Motion carries. I'll serve on the committee. Mr. Valentine being the chairman will serve. Who from that represents the city wants to serve?
Who's
Kent's district?
Kent's or Martin? Yours,
Okay, Mr. Shakes, you want to serve?
Yes.
You represent the city, you want to serve? Is 4 enough? We need 5?
Transportation.
And Ms. Fotno, 5 committee
What about
members.
Mr. McCollum? I'd like to see him on AD.
No, we have enough. Thank you, Mr. Hillenbeck, we have enough. Anything else, Mr.
May I
Carl?
make one final comment, please?
Yes, sir.
Because I don't want to leave with anybody misunderstanding. The sales tax to this project, and as Councilman Valentine mentioned, it sounds like there's others coming, but I'll speak to our Edenborn project. The difference between 8.5 and 10.5 is a deal breaker, because we're not able to attract retailers when shoppers can go up to 30 and buy their goods and services at 8.5. They wouldn't come down here. So that's why it's very important to us to have it resolved, because without it, we can't move forward. So I just wanted to mention that. It's just a comment. Okay?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, and I want to thank all the members of the council for allowing us here in front of you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
The parish president had to step out, so I guess we'll pass on 5. 6, Lamar Dixon report. Mr. Crawford. Mr. Crawford's not here tonight. We'll pass on 6. Finance Department reports, sales and tax report. Ms. Gwen LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mr. Barriger, and good evening to all members of the Finance Committee. You have your regular reports before you. We'll go over the sales tax report first. This is the month of February collections, which represents January sales. And you can see by the percent of difference in the center column that the sales tax collections are still up for the year. The reason why your drainage district is a lower percentage of increase than the other 2 sales tax districts is because retail throughout the parish, is finally leveling off. We're not experiencing those extreme highs that we did post-Katrina. So, and then at your request, every month I was reporting on a sector, just to give you an idea of where our parish taxes are collected in our parish. So if you look at the second chart, and this is still, we're still critiquing this. This comes from the Sales Tax Authority. What they've done at our request in the past is try to take all of these thousands of businesses that are registered with them and put them into sector groups. I've asked them to combine the petrochemical industry with those businesses that primarily do business with the chemical industry. They may have other customers outside, but their primary business core is the petrochemical industry, so we group them with the petrochemical industry. So it's not an exact science, it's just to give us a feel for where our taxes are being collected in the parish. So this pie chart is a year-to-date so far in 07 only. This represents January and February's collections in 2007. And we'll start with the biggest slice of the pie on your left, and that's the petrochemical industry and their suppliers. And that represents 46% of the taxes we collected thus far this year. And then the purple chart pie slice is the consumer, and that's consumer retail. And that represents 31% of the collections thus far this year. And then the red slice, it represents motor vehicles, and that's at 15% of total collections for this year only. And then the thinner slice is business to business. And that represents businesses that do business primarily with other businesses, like valve companies and building suppliers that are selling to other businesses to conduct their business. So then the third page, this bar chart is along the same lines for 2007, but we're comparing it to last year, year-to-date. So this is comparing 2006 versus 2007, year-to-date, which is only 2 months. And you can see by that starting on the left hand, consumer retail is actually 3% up over last year at this time. Motor vehicles is actually down 5.6, and of course, once again, we did expect that because we saw tremendous increases post-Katrina in motor vehicles. So that's leveling off. And then business to business is up 2.5% over last year at this time. And then the petrochemical industry plus their suppliers is up 24.5% over last year. So we're still critiquing this. The figures don't really add up to the front page, so don't try to add them up, because what the Sales Tax Authority does, and when they report our 1 cent, they put in not occupational license, the 2% hotel motel occupancy tax, and we take that out because that's not the 1 cent sales tax district. So there's some little critiquing that we need to do. And then the last page is just a historical chart depicting, our sales taxes since 1987, complete total collections through 2006, and then we're naturally starting 2007. So it just gives you a good idea of the peaks in our sales tax collections through the years. And of course, once again, like we discussed last finance meeting, 2006 was our largest sales tax collection in the history of our parish. So, and of course, as you all know, what we were just alluding to is our 2 sales tax districts that we created, and they are actually districts, and that was done intentionally by the parish governing authority to address just what's happening now. Before we had districts, we had no chair at the bargaining table. So when we got with our bond counsel and said, how can we protect our sales taxes in the future? We don't even have a say in it. So what he came back with is that the parish needs to create sales tax districts, and in the verbiage of our creation, we will put it constitutes all of the territory in the rural areas of the parish, except the 3 municipalities, and it names them, as their boundaries presently exist. So that means when they annex, they're annexing into our sales tax districts, and we retain our right to assess our sales taxes. And it was to give the governing authority a chair at the bargaining table, which is what you're experiencing now, instead of just arbitrarily losing it without us having any voice. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Any questions, comments? Okay, Ms. Gwen, 7B, 2006 end of the year report.
Okay, the 2006 end of the year report, we want to just recap you real quick to show you how we ended our year, and Amanda will present that. And then the next one on the agenda is a resolution we're asking for our banking institutions, and Aaron Turo will present that. So I'll turn it over to Amanda first.
Thank you, Ms. Gwen. Ms. Barak.
Good evening. This is it's unaudited, the 2006 end of the year report. Your general fund revenues are at 94% of the budget. This is primarily due to transfer from sales tax being reduced to a level to balance the general fund in accordance with the budget ordinance. There were some revenue increases in 2006. Mostly were the building permits, the planning fees, beer taxes, franchise fees, state share severance, and occupational license tax. Expenditures for the general fund were at 95% of the budget, and this is primarily due to the decrease in expenditures for the following departments. Legislative decreased by $22,000. Executive decreased by $44,000. Elections decreased by $23,000. Planning and development decreased by $93,000. Other various departments were at or below their budget. Public Works funds, road and bridge revenues at 93% of the budget, and this was primarily due to the transfer from sales tax being reduced to a level to balance the fund in accordance with your budget ordinance. The parish transportation did increase. However, Public Works is still negotiating the grass cutting agreement with the state. As of right now, we don't have an executed agreement. Expenditures for Road and Bridge are at 92%, and there are no unanticipated expenditures. Road and Bridge construction revenues were at 150% of the budget. This increase of $224,000 is primarily due to sales tax number 2 collections over the budget and approximately $2 million increase from sales tax number 1 as a result of the allocation to the general fund and Road and Bridge reduced to balance the fund, as well as increase in tax of approximately $878,000. Expenditures were at 111% of the budget, and this was based on construction encumbrances that were started in 2006 that will continue into 2007, and there are no unanticipated expenditures. East Ascension drainage revenues were at 93% of the budget, and this decrease is primarily due to an adjustment in ad valorem taxes. Expenditures at 89% of the budget, and there are no unanticipated expenditures, and they did improve their fund balance by approximately $800,000. East Ascension major drainage revenues were at 100% of the budget. Expenditures are at 97% of the budget, and there's no unanticipated expenditures. And it says that their fund balance stayed stationary. That's incorrect. The fund balance did increase there by approximately $1.4 million. East Ascension major construction fund revenues are at 105% of the budget, and this increase was $210 is primarily due to interest earned. Expenditures were at 44% of the budget, and there are no unanticipated expenditures. West Ascension drainage revenues were at 66% of the budget, and this decrease is primarily due to adjustment in ad valorem tax. Expenditures were at 91% of the budget. There are no unanticipated expenditures, and was able to improve fund balance also by approximately $49,000. Sales tax district, sales tax number 1 revenues at 108% of the budget. This increase of $178,000 is due to sales tax collections. Expenditures were at 109% of the budget, and these funds were dispersed in accordance with the budget ordinance. The fund balance was improved to an adequate amount. Sales tax number 2 revenues at 105% of the budget. This increase of $319,000 is due to sales tax collections. Expenditures at 105% of the budget. These funds were dispersed in accordance with the budget ordinance. Fire districts and road bridge construction received additional funds due to higher sales tax revenue than budgeted. Fire districts, revenues for Fire District 1, 2, 3 increased due to the increase in sales taxes and interest earnings, and expenditures were below budget. Your recreation funds, Recreation A, revenues were at 106% of the budget. This increase of $87,000 is due to an increase in sales tax. Expenditures at 95% of the budget. This allowed for the fund balance to improve also. Recreation B, revenues and expenditures are received and dispersed in accordance with the contract between the Parish and City of Donaldsonville for West Ascension Recreation. The fund received 10% of revenues that Recreation A received from the sales tax district number 1. Jail revenues were at 100% of the budget. This fund receives its revenues from a transfer from the general fund, and expenditures were at 94% of the budget. Lighting district's revenues were decreased primarily due to an adjustment in ad valorem taxes, and it affected Lighting District 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 was affected by that. Health unit and mental health revenues are at 96%, and the decrease is primarily due to adjustments in ad valorem tax. Expenditures are at 99% for the health unit and 90% for the mental health. So
Any questions, comments for Ms. Amanda? Thank you, Ms. Barrett. A resolution, banking institutions.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Ms. Fontenot. Any comments? Discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. 9, property insurance adjustment. Harry Robert Insurance.
Thank you, Ms. Fontenot, Committeeman. I just want to talk a little bit about property insurance. Of course, you realize property insurance is buildings, contents, and equipment. You have to renew in the past each year. We just have minor adjustments. The results would be no change, very little change, or sometimes just a small premium increase. A lot has changed since those years. Okay. Building costs have been the highest ever, and 7 of the last 10 years, we've had some of the worst storms that we've ever had. And I think everybody understands what's happened to the insurance industry since then. 3 years ago, when all our valuation, the totals was about $30 million. Right now, we're approaching over $50 million. So that, coupled with the increase in insurance costs, you can imagine what our premiums have escalated to. Not all this has been increase in buildings. A lot of it has been increase in valuations. Of course, there's been some new buildings that we've brought on the schedule. I guess probably the most expensive ones being the courthouse renovation in Donaldsonville, the clerk of court, and the alteration and the adjustment in the jail has been some of the biggest increase in values. And because of what's going on in the industry, the insurance companies had to get a little bit more innovative, and they came up with some ways and some methods to probably lighten the burden on carrying insurance. Okay, and some of the things that they have done is not necessarily the best for every situation, because it does increase the risk, while it does have a tendency to lower the premium. But at least it's an option if things escalate to the point to where insurance almost becomes unaffordable. Okay. Before you, I have a white sheet of paper, and on it has Ascension Parish government, and it has some property values. This year, whenever they renewed the property insurance, we could not get one company to accept the total amount of the risk. It had to go into a system, you call it a layered system. It took 4 different companies to participate to insure the entire risk at hand, which was $54 million. Each one of them assumed a certain portion of the risk. In front of you, you'll see that Axis insured $10 million, Winchester insured $5 million, which is $15 million at that point. One Beacon had $10 million, which is $25 million at that particular point. And then Landmark Insurance had a total of $29 million to bring the total insured value to $54,182,000. Now, that premium, that premium at this point costs $379. The values that were established whenever the policy was renewed 3/1 was about $47 million. So the increase in premium from going from $47 million to $55 million. If we choose to lighten the premium involved, we could go to what you call a partial loss limit rather than a full loss limit. It's not anything, like I was saying, that's really super desirable, but it's a way to get some premium relief if we decide that we just can't stomach, the full value coverage amount. Okay. And the way that works is that the possibility of having a total catastrophic loss in the full $54 million, values is probably pretty remote. It's almost impossible to envision something like that happening. We don't carry flood insurance. We carry fire and windstorm as the major perils that we're insured against. So considering those coverages that are applicable to the program that we have, a catastrophic event big enough to wipe us completely out, would be pretty remote. So what's happening in the industry is people are accepting less than the full value for total amount of coverage. It goes into what you call a partial loss limit. Okay. Our total value is, like I was saying, is about $55 million. Well, we could agree to accept a total loss value of $35 million rather than 55. Okay. That would make one of the particular companies, the last one that's insured in this, responsible for less of the property values. So that would drop the premium. At a $35 million loss limit, the premium would decrease from $379,000 to $348,000. So is it worth it to conceivably have, a total loss and then be out of $25 million coverage for $30,000? That's just a decision that we're going to have to make. That's something that's on the table that probably not likely that we'd have to do that this year. But if things keep on escalating, both on the insurance aspect end and on the valuation end, probably at some point in time we have to make some decisions to probably accept something like that. If you would accept a partial loss limit instead of 35, if you reduce that to say it's in all likelihood you'll probably have a loss probably greater than 25 million of the 55 at this point. Well, then again, that would reduce it from 379 to 297. And I'm just telling you this because I think that probably what we're experiencing now is going to be a way of the future. Everybody I talk to in the industry can't see any relief. We think that probably this year we some way or another didn't really get as high of an increase as we thought we'd get because there was no storm activity. But like I was saying, in the last 14 months, we had 7 of the worst storms that we've ever had. So I guess probably what's going to happen next year as far as rate structure is concerned is whether or not we have an incident that affects us or not this year. So this is just food for thought. I just wanted to kind of let you all know exactly which direction we're headed in. We still at this point hadn't completely finished the valuation of all the property. To give you an example, when the jail was insured last year, it was insured for between $5 and $6 million. I had an appraiser go out there, and we got a valuation on it of between $10 and $11 million. That's for the jail down there. That's the things that we face with increase in values, and coupled with that, with the increase in insurance rates, a lot is happening in this industry. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
Mr. Lambert?
Yeah, Mr. Perry.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the schedule that you have. I don't see Lamar Dixon on there at all.
No, we're not
separate.
Yeah, completely separate.
That's completely
separate. Right.
You need any action tonight from this board?
Well, if the valuations can continue to escalate, I think that probably the values that we had when I presented the program, it was $47 million, and at that point the premium was $313,000. So if we accept the full evaluation at this point, which is $57 million, it would be probably about a $60,000 increase in premium. Okay. Now, there's some things that we can play with, try it. And one of the things we did last year when the deductible was increased to $50,000 was eliminated some of the buildings that had a valuation of below $50,000. Okay, because if you have them insured for $50,000 and you're not going to collect anything, what's the use of carrying insurance on them? So we eliminated the buildings that were under $50,000, and those created a combined value of about $630,000 that we eliminated by just eliminating the coverage on the small $50,000 and less exposures. Okay.
You finished, Mr. Lambert?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Thompson?
Mr. Robert,
Yes.
what's your recommendation?
Well, I just think that probably we need to just keep on playing with it and see if there's some things that we can do to decrease our values without jeopardizing our position, And then at that point, when I think that probably we've maximized that, then I'll give you a recommendation on where I think probably we should settle as far as the valuation is concerned.
Thank you.
Mr. Hillensback?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Harry, did I understand you to say we had no flood insurance coverage?
Right.
And
Exactly. Right.
is what is happening in the other parishes that's in this close proximity to Mississippi River?
Well, they're doing probably the same thing that we're doing. There's self-insurance as far as the flood insurance is concerned.
Flood insurance.
Right.
When was the last time the levee broke? 29?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you.
11, Juvenile Protection Grant years 2004 through 05 and 05 through 06. Dr. Keller. Pass. Mr. Lambert?
Was here, so I thought Miss Martha Collins was here.
Is she next door in the coffee room?
All right, we'll just pass. I'm sorry.
13, proposed agenda for regular council meeting on March 15th. Please review that. Take a couple minutes. Ms. Suzanne, I think Ms. Collins did ask you to add something.
Under number 15 grants, she requested that we add Build-A-Bear Domestic Animals Grant Program.
Okay.
So that would be 15C, if that's okay.
Absolutely. All right. Take a few more minutes to review it. Ms. Suzanne, a clarification on 8A, if we could. Jail sewer, whether we do it parish or run it to, send it to Donaldsonville for A, and B, we need to hire an engineering firm to actually design whatever we decide to do on A. We need to take care of both those items. Any other concerns? Ms. Fontenot?
I just want to make sure that the proper documentation for the items under transportation are in the packet when they sent out to the...
Without them.
Right.
We have not. I received some information from GSA, and Mr. Israel assured me he will hand deliver the rest of the information to me tomorrow morning.
Okay, I just want to make sure that they're in the packet and not brought and laid down at our station. I want everybody to be able to review it ahead of time. And I guess we need to make sure that somebody is there to address those concerns, if there's any questions. Thank you.
Any other concerns? Mr. Valentine?
Yeah, I would suggest, especially the chairman of the committees, to put an email to the parish president. That's part in the charter that you would request a representative to be there to answer that.
Any other concerns, comments? Motion by Mr. Shea Snyder to adjourn, second by Mr. Thompson. Meeting adjourned.
Oh man, you're almost did the charge, man.